All right.
Oh, good. Wait a minute. It's not going.
All right. Here we go. Recording. Camera on. Shoshana, turn your camera on.
Are you teachable? Young, I need to know. Are you reachable? Just how far are you willing to go? Are you humble? Oh, and are you teachable? Can you hear that still small voice in your head, showing us where we're missing the mark? Where we're missing the mark. Like a child, we must trust and obey you, even if no one is when you built a great ark. No one was teachable. How about you? I need to know. Are you reachable? Just how far are you willing to go? Read His word, do all it's best to do. If you want to live forever with Him, live forever with Him. And when you go astray, confess your sin. Even God will live, and God will forgive them. God was teachable. How about you? I need to know. Are you reachable? Just how far are you willing to go? Are you humble? Oh, and are you teachable? Or he resists the proud and tough the fan. This is look at me, see how great I am. But to this one girl he looks, the meek and unpretentious man, like Grandfather Abraham. For he was teachable. How about you? I need to know. Are you reachable? Just how far are you willing to go? Are you humble? Oh, and are you teachable?
All right. Welcome, everyone. This is Brother Doug. My sister Shoshana was just having one of her songs play for us as an intro to this study. And it's known as, the song is called Are You Teachable? And that's going to transition us into our study today. So I'm going to allow my brother Dennis to go with the commentary here as we start our study. And Brother Dennis, you're unmuted. You should be unmuted at this point. Let me just make sure. Yep, you are. All right, so you will start us off and going into this study called What Christianity and Judaism Gets Right and What They Get Wrong. And the first part is Judaism. So go ahead, brother.
Thank you, Doug. This is Dennis. Some sects in Judaism keep the Sabbath from sunset to sunset. Others, out of tradition, keep it from 6 p.m. to 6 p.m. year-round. That usually started in America here. And they break the Sabbath by asking Gentiles to do work for them. And this is Exodus 20, verses 8 through 11. Shoshana, if you would read that.
Okay. Remember the Sabbath day to Kadash it. Set it apart. 6 days you labor and shall do all your work. But the seventh day is the Sabbath of Yahuwah your Elohim. You do not do any work. You, nor your son, nor your daughter, nor your male servant, nor your female servant, nor your cattle, nor your stranger who is within your gates. For in 6 days Yahuwah made the Shemayim and the earth, the sea and all that is in them. And he rested on the seventh day. Therefore Yahuwah Barak the Sabbath day and Kadesh it.
Yes, and this is for servants and everyone, and for the cattle, for the pets, anybody and everybody. This is for. And these people actually ask people to turn on and off lights for them, to do things for them. They're actually asking them to be servants for them on the Sabbath. Leviticus 23:32. Doug, this is
All
from
right.
NIV.
Yep. Thank you, Brother Dennis. I'm going to switch the share screen here. Unfortunately, we didn't realize how much time we had. We're definitely going to have to do a part 2, but I will continue here, picking off here. Leviticus 23, verse 32 in the Septuagint, because honestly, it's a little bit more honest with the text here than the Masoretic text. So here we go. It says, "It shall be a set-apart Sabbath to you, and you shall humble your lives or your beings from the 9th day of the month. From evening to evening you shall keep your Sabbaths," plural, meaning not just the Day of Atonement. So I'm going to also go now, we're going to go to Deuteronomy chapter 16, verse 6 here, and I'm going to show you that evening equals sunset. Okay, so we're going to go here real quick. Trying to accelerate the time here because we're already less than 10 minutes here. So here we go. So verse 6 of Deuteronomy chapter 16. "But in the place which Yahuwah thy Elohim shall choose to have his name called there, you shall sacrifice the Passover at evening at the setting of the sun." Evening equals sunset. "At the time when you came out of Egypt." So pretty much self-explanatory how to sacrifice the Passover and all that. So now that I'm done reading here, I'm going to turn it back over and we're going to try to get you as much as we can here. Brother Dennis, can you take off? And we'll try to fit Psalms 81, 3-4 before we'll have to do a part 2.
Okay, yes. Of course, this is a Sabbath, setting Sabbath apart, and evening sunset to sunset. They keep the feast, but unbrookedly, or unfortunately, they use the wrong phase of the moon. They use the dark side of the moon instead of the first crescent, which is always seen at sunset. After the sun sets, you see the first crescent of the moon. This is Psalms 81, 3-4. Shoshana?
Call with the trumpets at the time of the new moon and at the full moon on our festival days. For this is a law for Yisrael and a right ruling of the Elohim of Yaakov.
Yes. Doug?
Just 1 second, please. I'm switching screens here. All right, so now we are at, so the covering where a lot of people get in the ISR 1998 and so on and so forth, not actually, my bad, not the 1998, but 2009 version of the ISR. It says in the covering, confuses people in this verse here. That's the actual root word. The original word is actually at the full moon, which I'll just show you real quick. From the earlier versions, like the ISR 1998 actually gets it correct and says at the full moon, and it's talking about a separate feast day other than the new moon. It's actually talking about 2 different appointed times here, which most people kind of miss in Psalms 81, 3-4. Okay, so it says here in the scriptures 1998, blow the shofar, which shofar is not a ram's horn. Shofar is actually a cornet or a trumpet. So blow the cornet or trumpet at the time of the new moon, at the full moon on our festival date, meaning that the full moon is for the other feast days, which Shoshana just read from the Aramaic version of the book of Psalms. And also, if we go to the Septuagint here, it doesn't even have that second part of the verse. It just says, blow the trumpet at the new moon in the esteemed day of your feast. So pretty much the Masoretic text is the only way you can get the covering, and you would have to take the root word in the covering over the actual word that's being used, full moon. So just explain why the confusion. All right, so now I'm going to bring it over to Sister Shoshana to read Leviticus 11, 1 to 12, and I think that's all the time we're going to have for this portion. So Sister Shoshana, if you may read Leviticus 11, 1 to 12, eating kosher.
And Yahuwah spoke to Moshe and to Aharon, saying to them, Speak to the children of Yisrael, saying, These are the living creatures which you do eat among all the beasts that are on the earth. Whatsoever has a split hoof, completely divided, chewing the cud among the beasts that you do eat. Only these you do not eat among those that chew the cud or those that have a split hoof. The camel, because it chews the cud, but does not have a split hoof, is unclean to you. And the rabbit, because it chews the cud, but does not have a split hoof, it is unclean to you. And the hare, because it chews the cud, but does not have a split hoof, it is unclean to you. And the pig, though it has a split hoof, completely divided, yet does not chew the cud, it is unclean to you. Their flesh you do not eat, and their carcasses you do not touch. They are unclean to you. These you do eat of all that are in the waters. Anyone that has fins and scales in the waters, in the seas or in the rivers, those you do eat. But all that have not fins and scales in the seas and in the rivers, all that move in the waters, or any living creature which is in the waters, they are an abomination to you. They are an abomination to you. Of their flesh you do not eat, and their carcasses you abominate. All that have not fins or scales in the waters is an abomination to you, such as the crab or the lobster. And it goes on to explain among the birds, those that you eat, and insects. And we're not going to go into that because usually we get it right on those. Nobody really eats insects anymore. So back to you, Dennis.
Okay. They do misunderstand the commandment to not shave their heads and beards, and this is usually because they do it for the dead, and we should not do that, Doug.
Yep, and to further explain it, it's also to the faulty manuscript of the Masoretic text that kind of leaves that part out, that important part about the context of the commandments. So I'm going to read that real quick before we're going to have to end part 1 here. Leviticus chapter 21 verse 1 says in the Septuagint, And Yahuwah spoke to Moses, saying, Speak to the priests, the sons of Aaron, and you shall tell them that they shall not defile themselves in their nation for the dead. So this chapter starts off by talking about not doing stuff to defile themselves with the dead. But they may mourn for a relative who is very near to them, for a father and mother and sons and daughters, for a brother. So all that's okay to mourn for your relatives and stuff like that. And for a virgin sister that is not near to one that is not a spouse to a man. So I guess there's a prohibition to mourning for a virgin sister that's actually a spouse to a man. So you can only mourn for a virgin sister. She's not a spouse to a husband. For these one shall defile himself. He shall not defile himself suddenly among his people to profane himself. And you shall not shave your head for the dead. Very important part that the Masoretic text leaves out of this verse. With a baldness on the top, and they shall not shave their beard, neither shall they make gashes on their flesh, like cutting themselves for the dead. So basically the commandment is don't cut yourselves, don't gash yourselves for the dead, don't make a baldness on the top of your head for the dead, and don't shave your beard for the dead, basically. So that's something that the
baldness. Doug, that baldness on the top of the head that you're talking about, you know, the Catholics wear these little hats, and a lot of Jews do too, called a kippah. I don't know what the Catholics call them, but they
Yeah.
represent sun worship.
Well, you also
And
recall.
so does the bald.
All right, we're about to get cut off. We can continue informing them. Hold on to that thought, guys. All right, stay tuned to the part 2, y'all. We'll be back very shortly. Shalom.
Shalom.
Yeah.
Shalom.